So the summer of I turned 15, my dad and his best friend, a fellow named Tom McCabe, decided that they were going to take their sons, their three oldest. Tom McCabe had three oldest boys. He had 14 total children. My dad had 11. And we were going on what they politely called a vocation vacation. And the idea was we were going to be exposed to a Roman Catholic monastery in upstate New York. So we piled in the car and we drove about 7 hours up through the Catskills, pretty far north. And my dad and my Uncle Tom were advising us along the way some of the protocols and rules of monastery life, and to get us prepared for monastery life, we weren't going to have any meals until dinner that night. So you're talking about 5 kids between the age of 14 and 17 who are ravenously hungry by the time we got up to Mount Savior Monastery around 5 o'clock. So the monks, of course, take vows of chastity and silence. Poverty is another one. And when we got to the dining hall, we were pretty hungry, but my father and my Uncle Tom had told us the meal is going to be pretty austere. These people are living, very, very frugally. So expect to have maybe a bowl of soup and some pumpernickel bread, and if you're lucky, you might get a slab of margarine for your bread. So that sounded like what dinner was going to be. So we come into the dining hall, and the monks are gathered in a rectangular square, and along the far wall are about 15 or 16 of these monks. They're dressed in brown habits with white, their robes are tied with a kind of rope or maybe a rosary, and they're very quiet. At the head of the hall is a bear of a man who is commanding their attention. He bore a kind of resemblance to Adolf Eichmann, and the other brothers, monks around us are very thin and emaciated. You can tell that they have not been eating very much. So we're my brother Paul, Tom McCabe, Phil and Greg, the McCabe brothers, are sitting with us, and my dad's on one side, my Uncle Tom's on the other, and they do finally bring the soup out. Now, it's pea soup, and it's pretty plain, and the pumpernickel bread tastes pretty good, but we haven't eaten since breakfast. We're pretty hungry, so we eat 2 or 3 bowls of pea soup and, get pretty filled up with pea soup. Now, I didn't quite understand the protocol of the monks, but they've taken a vow of silence, and there's some kind of tittering that's going on that's abruptly ended with a slap. And the main abbot had a ruler, and he slapped it against the table, and all the tittering stopped, and the monks kind of watched us eating our second or third bowl of soup. So they clear the tables, and we're all thinking to ourselves, well, I guess that's that, and we're pretty full. We've had 3 bowls of soup and 3 or 4 pieces of pumpernickel bread, and suddenly this monk comes out into the hall with a roast duck, and then another monk comes out with mashed potatoes and yams, and then cranberries come out, and then a braised roast beef comes out, and the monks start having this miraculously wonderful Thanksgiving meal, and we're kind of looking at each other like, what's going on? What happened? I thought this was supposed to be this austere occasion. And they're chowing down, and then my dad and my Uncle Tom are also indulging, and we're eating as much as we can, but we're pretty stuffed on pea soup and pumpernickel bread. So finally, the meal goes on for about an hour, and we were introduced to some Benedictine wine and probably a little taste of some Benedictine schnapps, and it was quite an interesting evening. So the next day, right, we are supposed to be secluded. We're not allowed to talk. We go to Vespers at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's the only time we heard the monks talking. They were singing their prayers. And, you know, my dad said, you know, do you want to get some lunch? I thought, no, heck no, I'm waiting for dinner, man. I want to chow down. I'm not gonna have anything to eat until dinner time. So, you know, after 6 or 7 hours, dinner finally is served. By now it's Saturday night, and it's the soup course again. But that's all it is. It's just pea soup and pumpernickel bread. And, you know, we're looking around at each other. What happened to that big glorious meal that happened last night? So same thing on Sunday. You know, they had gone back into this very austere, disciplined meals of very little eating. So we pack up. You know, we get ready to leave, and we're on the road back home, and you know, we've done nothing really but reflect on the possibility of joining the monastery. And all five, the three McKay boys and me, my brother Paul, were pretty sure this wasn't a life that we wanted to share with anyone. And you know, I said to my dad, Dad, what happened on Friday night? You know, when we first arrived, why were they having such a big meal? And my father kind of chuckled and he said, well, we happened to land on the Feast of St. Benedict. And that's the only night all year that they have a big meal. And so, so I didn't get to really partake much of it, but I did get to have a weekend with the monks up in the attic.